I'm living proof that teachers make a difference. In fact, it was my 6th grade teacher, and she kind of helped set me on a path that would ultimately lead to the life that I live now. But there was help along the way. I mean, teachers championed my whole life. I don't think I was really sure that I wanted to be an English teacher until I got to college and thought about or realized that the impact that I could make wouldn't be in a college classroom like I had imagined, that it would be in a high school classroom. And I thought that because I thought back to my own junior year of English, and it was the year that I discovered myself, kind of got more in touch with who I was as a student and okay with who I was as a person. And it was because of my English teacher, Bonnie Baker. She was phenomenal. She made class feel like a safe place, feel like home. Miss Baker made us do this one assignment called the GIFT. She called it the Emerson Gift Project, and it was based on an essay by Emerson called Gifts, where he said that a true gift is a gift of yourself, and that you must, convey some kind of biography about who you are and the gift that you give. And so Miss Baker challenged each of us to come up with a gift of ourselves to give during an Emerson celebration week, where we'd each give our presentation on whatever the gift is that we're going to give. So I struggled for a couple of days and then finally went up and asked Miss Baker for some advice and talked to her about what my gift could be. And she told me to really think about it and search my soul kind of for some kind of gift, that there's something there, there's something special about me. What is it? And I started crying because I couldn't think of anything. And she said that it would come to me, and then I can't remember exactly what our conversation was, but she encouraged me. And then I went home and thought about it more, and then came back and went up to her again and told her I couldn't think of anything, and started crying again. And then finally she said to me, "You're such a sensitive person, why don't you give the gift of sensitivity?" I thought she was nuts. I thought, how could sensitivity ever be a gift? It feels like a curse. And then I ended up kind of making a list and turning it into a poem. And it was like a long poem. And it was called The Gift of Sensitivity. So I wrote a poem about being sensitive and things in my life, or moments in my life, that have kind of led to those characteristics that have kind of defined me. And that became my gift. And so on the day that I actually had to perform it, I recited my poem to the class. I made a poster with different images of things that kind of related to the 10 things in my poem about being sensitive. And by the end of the period, most of the class was in tears because they had connected with it so much. And it wasn't just my gift that impacted me. I mean, obviously that was a big turning point for me to kind of recognize what gift I had, and how I could share that with my classmates. But it was also the gifts that everybody gave, and the challenge that everyone had to find something that they felt was good enough or worthy enough to share with their classmates. When I became a teacher, I looked forward to the day that I would finally get to teach junior curriculum, because it was what I felt the strongest, I guess. It was the kind of curriculum that I felt I could identify with my students the most, because it focuses on American Lit, and you get to go through the different periods, and you get to talk about how America is defined, and how America is defined by so many differences, and how we could maybe pull those differences out from our own classes and see, how different we can be, but also how similar we can be, and how those similarities can also help us connect. If one of my students gave, her gift was giving the gift of compassion. And in giving that gift, she shared some pretty intimate experiences that she had had as a child. She'd been molested for 8 years, and nobody did anything about it. And the way she told the story was based on having compassion for people and being a good listener. And one of the things that she values, or what that her friends have always valued about her, is that she's a really good listener, and she always makes you feel like she's listening to you. And then she talked about how important it is to listen to people. This was the first time in her life that she had shared her secret, outside of telling her parents, who didn't believe her and kind of never really listened. So it was a really powerful moment, and she cried through most of the presentation, and I think pretty much most of the students in the class were also crying. And when she was done, everybody just kind of let her know how much they loved her and appreciated the fact that she had shared such a, dark secret, and that she could count on them to be her friend. And she talked about the dark times in her life where she had thought about committing suicide, and just kind of, ending her life because she felt like no one cared or no one listened. And I think it was on that day that even someone in class said to her, actually, it was said several times throughout my gift projects this year, kids shared moments, dark moments in their lives where they thought about committing suicide. And I think almost every single time it happened, someone in the class raised their hand and just said, I just want to make this promise right now. If you ever feel like your, life isn't worth living and you need someone to talk to, please call me. I'm here for you. And that happened so many times this year. So that was during the gift projects. But then after the gift projects, we started a unit called This I Believe, and it's an essay that students have to write. What I do to kind of get my students prepared for this is we do journal writing, and I give them topics and they respond. And one of the first journal topics is 3 choice words, it's called. And they have to choose 3 words. It can be a statement or 3 words they string together of words they believe in. And she said, miracles do happen, and the reason I believe miracles happen is because this class is my miracle. Because for 8 years I held on to a secret that has brought me to some very dark moments in my life, and I feel like I can live again. I feel like I've been heard. I feel like I'm loved, and it's all because of this class. It's because of you guys, because you've made me feel so loved since I've told the secret, and I don't regret ever doing it. And I feel like this huge weight has been lifted off my shoulder. So thank you for being my miracle. And she was bawling as she said it, and it was like simultaneous. This was probably the best moment of the year. Simultaneously, the class stood up, and she sits in the back of the class, and all the kids kind of just gathered, climbed over desks, gathered and clamored around her, and just kind of, some of them bent over to hug her, some of them just put their hand on her, but they all just kind of gathered around her to just tell her again how much they loved her and how much, they're there for her. And so that was probably one of the most powerful moments of the